How's it going, everyone? We've got some more unfortunate PlayStation news, as it looks like another studio that PlayStation was backing has shut down. The development studio Deviation Games has officially shut down without shipping a single game, as noted on PlayStation Lifestyle, including canceling the AAA PlayStation 5 exclusive that it was working on. Deviation Game partnered with Sony back in 2021, and it was founded by Dave Anthony and Jason Blundell of Call of Duty fame. The same day, the studio announced a partnership with Sony to develop an unannounced new PlayStation 5 IP. Now, it was noted that they were working on a AAA PlayStation 5 title. Whether or not this was a live service game, I don't know. I would imagine it was, but again, we don't have any clarification as far as what exactly they were working on. But Deviation Games was not a first-party Sony title. Deviation Games was working with Sony, and Sony had backed the studio to work on a game. They're more of a second-party studio, very similar to how Arrowhead is. Arrowhead is not owned by Sony. I know that there were rumors circulating that Arrowhead was being acquired by Sony, and that has happened in the past where a second-party studio gets acquired by a publisher and ultimately becomes a first-party studio. That is pretty much what happened with Insomniac. Insomniac for a long time was not owned by Sony. When they were working on Ratchet & Clank and Resistance, Insomniac was very much a second-party studio, and they had shipped a couple of Xbox titles as well. In fact, they worked on the Xbox exclusive in Sunset Overdrive. They had worked on a multiplayer shooter that its name is totally escaping me right now. Was it Fuse? It may have been Fuse. That was a multi-platform game, and they were a second-party studio that would work hand-in-hand with Sony, but ultimately they could do whatever for a while until Sony did acquire them. I think it was like a $300 million deal, which in retrospect, $300 million for Insomniac was an absolute bargain. Sony got a bargain for Insomniac at $300 million, given how phenomenal they have been and how integral they've been to the entire PlayStation ecosystem. But circling back to Deviation Games, for a while we did know that the project was having trouble. The initial rumors of this AAA game having problems was back in May of 2023, when insider Colin Moriarty noted that the game had been canceled. And there were Deviation developers that were working for Deviation Games that were hired by Sony, moving to Sony in totality, which is actually pretty good to see. But at the same time, that means that the studio itself was having problems where developers from that studio were shifting directly over to working for Sony. Fast forward to last week when Deviation's HR officer, Christy Sull, announced on LinkedIn that the studio has closed its door and is hosting a networking event to find new opportunities. Generally speaking, whenever a studio shuts down, they do these networking events so employees and workers at that studio can find new homes and try to find the best transition for them as far as getting a new job. So obviously, really unfortunate when you talk about a studio getting shut down and jobs being lost. I don't know, again, if this was a live service game, but given all of the recent Sony cuts and the Sony layoffs, the majority of them have been tied towards the live service games push, and I can't say that with certainty, but given that Deviation Games was created by Dave Anthony and Jason Blundell of Call of Duty fame, that's what I'm getting at. But again, I don't know exactly what is the case with everything going on as far as that's concerned. They had been working on, however, a AAA original IP for PlayStation, and with the AAA original IP getting canceled, that it was noted, it is with a heavy heart that we announced the closure of Deviation Games. That's coming from Christy Sull, announced on LinkedIn. I want to express my deepest gratitude to our team. Thank you for all your hard work, dedication, and contributions to Deviation. I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity to have worked with each and every one of you. To the entire video game industry, we will be hosting a networking event, and we would love for all companies, studios hiring to participate. Please reach out to me directly if you're interested in attending. To all the Deviators out there, we will always cherish the memories we made together. Thank you for being a part of the journey. Back in 2021, as noted on GamesIndustry.biz, as far as the PlayStation partnership goes, it was noted, it's absolutely mind-blowing for us. We have never been in a situation like this before, where we've got everything we could possibly ask for day one of the studio. We have complete financial security for years and years to come. Now with this partnership with Sony, we can be ourselves, and not only with that, we bring people into the studio. We can promise that this is our culture, and we can fearlessly create and innovate and be groundbreaking. Again, timeline-wise, when you talk about Sony investing in 2021, 2021 is around the time where they were heavily investing into getting live service off the ground. 2020, 2021, and that's why you're seeing the damages come out now, because these games have been in development for years and years, and ultimately a lot of them aren't coming to fruition, a lot of studios being shut down, and these games aren't seeing the light of day. Whether or not this was a live service game, I don't know. It was an original AAA IP, and if I had to speculate, again, imperative word there, speculate, I would assume it was a live service game, given everything that's going on recently, where there was Trouble in Paradise in like May of 2023, and 2023, 2024, and probably into 2025, this is where you're gonna see the ramifications of those decisions actually having lasting consequences. That's why 2024, I believe this to be the reason, because of the live service push, that we're not seeing a major first-party PlayStation game release for the entire year from a major franchise. You're gonna see third-party agreements, a Stellar Blade, a Rise of the Ronin, and a Helldivers 2, titles like that come out, but from first-party, you're not seeing much of anything else because there was so much investment into live service. Again, with Deviation Games, second-party studio, but nonetheless, a game that was going to ultimately be published by PlayStation as well. And more than anything, it is unfortunate seeing jobs lost. And who knows, maybe this game was just going to be a single-player, big-budget PlayStation exclusive, but given that the studio was founded by people from Call of Duty fame, and it was during that timeline where PlayStation was heavily investing into live service, I would have to think that it would have been some sort of game with a live service component attached to it. And you know what? Going on a little bit of a tangent as far as live service goes, you could dig up videos from like 2023, 2022, where we were talking about Sony and the live service push, and like, it's not just me. All of you guys in the comments section said the same thing. We're like, you know what? Let Sony do Sony, but ultimately, I don't think this is what the PlayStation audience wants, and yeah, it's not what the PlayStation audience really wanted, but hopefully with Hiroki Totoki at the helm of PlayStation now, we can course correct a little bit and get back to what Sony does best. And I'm not saying never do a multiplayer game ever again. Live service can work, as evident by Helldivers 2, but I've talked about it over and over again. With live service, you can't just chuck 20 billion live service games at the wall and hope one sticks. I know that's what all of these publishers want to do. We just need one or two of these games to stick, guys. We can let Skull and Bones and Suicide Squad just completely flop. It don't matter. If we just find one game that sticks, it's okay. And you need more than one. Helldivers 2 has stuck, but if you're gonna, have 20 games in development of this style, you're gonna need a couple of them to do well. Ultimately, they're gonna get canceled otherwise, but Sony, I think they have the fundamentals in place for a successful business model going into the future, where you are focused on these single-player, big-budget titles. You can release them on PlayStation. You can release them on PC now as well. You're comfortable with doing that. Residual revenue is going to come from both platforms, and I think ultimately you're going to make a lot of money doing that. And those are games that live service games, the issue with that is people can't juggle a bunch of live service games. You generally have your one or two live servicey games, and you play those for a long time, and yes, those one or two games are gonna pop off and do very well, but for every League of Legends out there, you're gonna have games like all of the other MOBAs that have come out over the last few years. One of them is shutting down here very shortly, never getting a PlayStation 5 release. Is it Paragon? It might be Paragon. I can't remember the name entirely off the top of my head right now, but there's a ton of games like that where, for every League of Legends, you'll get 5 MOBAs that completely flop, whereas single-player games, yeah, they can flop. Immortals of Aveum, Forspoken, Callisto Protocol, I could go on and on. There's a lot of flops there as well, but there's also a lot of potential for success, as we've seen with, like, a Plague Tale. But nonetheless, that'll do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, sound off there. I know I got a bit off on a tangent, and we don't even know if Deviation was working on a live service game, but that's just what I am assuming. That's what makes sense to me, given the timeline and everything, but they may have not been. It might have just been an original AAA IP that was a big budget game, and if that was the case, sucks it got canceled, sucks jobs are gonna be lost. That is always the most unfortunate thing that happens with things like this. But again, that'll do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Sound off there. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.